Now, which is the way out of this? I believe that is not just adjustment to the pay-as-you-go pension system. The so-called parametric pension reforms will not work. Three reasons. First of all, each country is different. This is not a European pay-as-you-go system. Each country has its own pay-as-you-go system with different rules. There will be enormous asymmetries in the way each country will try to address the problem. For example, maybe you can increase the retirement age more easily in a disciplined country like Germany, where a consensus between business, trade unions, and government could impose a solution. But it will be much more difficult to do it in Italy or in France, where you will have crippling national strikes if you were tomorrow to really increase the retirement age. Second, it's not only a point of increasing the retirement age. People change their behavior when there are these changes. For example, in countries with extensive welfare system or very lax disability system, people will simply try to get a disability payment. So if you say you have to work more, people will go and find a way to get other state funds. So you will be changing simply the financing from one ministry to another. Parametric reform may lead then to behavioral changes. And finally, every attempt to reduce benefits or increase payroll tax decrease even more the minimal rate of return that those payroll taxes or payroll contributions are having. You know, they are maybe 0, 1, 2% return on 10, 15, 20% savings or contributions. So the more you go that way, the bigger the gap between the rate of return of the pay-as-you-go system and the rate of return of simply putting the money in the bank. So I don't believe in parametric pension reform. I believe that if this problem is not solved, the capital markets will begin to give its verdict. I'm quite surprised of the fact that all the sovereign bonds of European countries have still AAA status when their debt is 250% of GNP. Maybe the credit agencies should take into account these points, and maybe we will see the day in 5, 10, 15 years when the sovereign debt of some European country will not be AAA. And maybe some of them will be Argentina in 10, 15, 20 years. And a lot of people will lose a lot of money because of that. Now, which is the way out? In my view, the way out is simply to get away from the pay-as-you-go pension system. As you know, we had an experiment in my country, Chile, 22 years ago that has been incredibly successful. 15 other countries have followed Chile. There are 70 million workers now with personal retirement accounts, including some European countries like Sweden that began a year ago with 2 years ago with a small experiment, Poland, and so on. Now, why can you ask the UK to get into the European single currency if the UK is not having such a problem with pensions and the rest will have? So there are a lot of implications of this. I believe that the way out then is to go toward a system of personal retirement account. I believe the pay-as-you-go system is flawed at the basis. It destroys the link between contribution and effort, between benefits and rewards. It creates a system where there is an incentive for everyone to minimize what they pay into the system and to maximize what they get out of the system. There is an incentive for legal plunder, as Frédéric Bastiat called it more than a century ago. So I believe that that is the way out. Let me finish reminding you that one of the most important figures of the last 200 years in Europe and in the world was precisely the Iron Chancellor, Otto von Bismarck. His importance is due to his instituting two political changes of grave consequences for our civilization. The first was the unification of Germany, and it was done, through his own words, through iron and steel on a militaristic and nationalistic foundations. The consequences of that mark, of course, the 20th century in a way that we all know very well. Now, the problem is that there is a second Bismarckian legacy, and very similar, and that is the institution of compulsory state pension system. And it was motivated by the same vision of nationalism and statism. He connected his pension plans with his militarism by explaining that just as soldiers in the army were entitled to their pension for services to the state, So all employees were to be considered soldiers of labor, entitled to a state pension, and as he explained so clearly, thus easier to handle than those with private pensions. The consequences of the Bismarckian pay-as-you-go system will mark the 21st century, unless we can explain to enough people the inevitable consequences of that policy and how to avoid them. Those of us who appreciate the noble and visionary effort to create a common economic space in Europe, and in that way ensure peace in a continent torn for so long by tribal wars, would wish to the single currency that whatever the merits of its introduction, it has become to many the symbol of economic European integration. Therefore, if we are serious about the goal of European integration and keeping the euro alive, I believe it's time to abandon the Bismarckian pension paradigm and moving toward a comprehensive retirement system based on ownership, individual freedom, and self-reliance. Thank you very much.